You know that person who suddenly exploded over something small, something that didn't seem to matter at all, and everyone looked at each other confused, whispering about how they just lost it. Maybe you've been that person. Maybe you felt the ground disappear beneath you while the world kept spinning, and all you could do was scream into a void that nobody else could see. What they call crazy isn't sudden at all. It's the final crack in a dam that's been holding back an ocean for years. She sits at dinner with her family, fork in hand, nodding along to conversation. Someone asks if she's okay. She smiles and says she's just tired. But inside, there's a scream that never stops. A prayer that nobody asks her again because she doesn't know if she can keep the mask from slipping. He laughs at the joke his co-workers tell, contributes to the banter, stays late to help with the project. At home, he stares at the ceiling until 3 in the morning, replaying every interaction, wondering if they noticed the tremor in his voice, the way his hands wouldn't stop shaking. This is the before, the long silent before that nobody sees. What we call a breakdown is actually a breakthrough that nobody was ready for. It's what happens when a person has spent years, sometimes decades, swallowing their truth, compressing their pain into something manageable, something that fits in the corner of a room where nobody looks. They've become experts at emotional origami, folding themselves smaller and smaller until they almost disappear. And then one day, the paper tears. The psychology calls it affect dysregulation. The collapse of emotional management systems that have been running on fumes. But that's just language trying to hold something that can't be held. What really happens is this. A child learns early that their feelings are too much, that their anger scares people, that their sadness makes others uncomfortable. So they learn to perform. They become actors in their own lives, showing up with a script everyone else wrote. The nervous system learns to override its own signals, to turn down the volume on internal screams until the person can barely hear themselves anymore. Year after year, they deposit their grief into an account they never check, interest compounding in the dark. You see it in the woman who apologizes for everything, who makes herself smaller in doorways, who laughs when something hurts because she learned that her pain was an inconvenience. You see it in the man who works himself into exhaustion because stillness means feeling, and feeling means remembering what he's been running from since he was 8 years old. They move through the world like ghosts, present but not really here, watching their own lives from behind glass. The cost is invisible until it's not. Relationships built on false foundations crumble because nobody actually knew who they were loving. Bodies keep the score, manifesting anxiety in racing hearts and clenched jaws, depression in limbs that feel like lead. The mind fractures under the weight of dissonance, trying to reconcile the person they show the world with the person screaming inside. And when the dam finally breaks, when the carefully constructed walls collapse, everyone is shocked. But the signs were always there, written in every forced smile, every deflection, every time they said they were fine when their eyes were drowning. You recognize it in others when you notice the pause before they answer, the way they check everyone's face before they speak, the excessive apologies, the constant accommodation, the way they vanish from their own stories. You recognize it in yourself when you can't remember the last time you said what you actually wanted, when you realize you've been holding your breath for so long, you forgot what it feels like to fill your lungs completely. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you expressed anger without immediately apologizing for it? Do you know what you actually feel, or just what you think you should feel? Can you name 3 things you want without considering what others need from you first? If you disappeared tomorrow, would anyone know the real you, or just the version you performed? When you're alone, do you feel relief, or do you feel more lost? What would you say if you knew nobody would judge you? What have you been carrying that was never yours to carry? Healing starts with the smallest rebellion. Telling the truth when someone asks how you are. It continues with learning that feelings aren't problems to be solved, but information to be heard. It grows when you start noticing the moments you betray yourself, when you say yes but mean no, when you smile but want to cry. For those watching someone struggle, your presence matters more than your solutions. Create space where silence isn't awkward, where tears aren't emergencies, where someone can be a mess without having to immediately clean it up. Sometimes witnessing is the medicine. What they called crazy was actually sanity trying to survive in an impossible situation. It was the self refusing to disappear completely, fighting back the only way it knew how. You are not broken for breaking. You are not too much for finally being enough of yourself to be seen. The person you've been pretending to be can finally rest. The person you actually are has been waiting a lifetime to breathe.